Hello everyone, welcome to Learn ReactJS for Frontend Development by CodeChef. So in the previous few lessons, we will be learning about what React is and how it helps us build dynamic user interfaces. But to understand how React applications are structured, we need to learn about components. Components are core building blocks in React applications. It breaks down the UI into small and reusable pieces, therefore making our code easier to maintain, manage, and scale. So in this lesson, we will be learning about components in React and how to create and manage them. So let's begin. Components are the very foundation of every React application. Everything you see on the screen in a React app is built using components. Once you understand components, building scalable and clean React applications become much easier. So what is a component? In simple terms, a component is a reusable piece of the user interface. It includes everything required for that section: JSX for structure, logic for behavior, and styles for appearance. Instead of separating HTML, CSS, and JavaScript into different files, React groups related code into components. Components solve multiple problems at once. They allow reusability, meaning same UI logic can be used multiple times. They improve code organization and make applications easier to maintain. They also speed up development because you work with small, focused pieces. This is why components sit at the heart of React. Creating a component in React is very simple. A component is just a JavaScript function that returns JSX. This JSX looks like HTML, but it's actually JavaScript under the hood. Once a component is created, we can use it just like an HTML tag. When React sees a component tag, it replaces it with the JSX returned by that component. This keeps our UI structure clean and readable. So far, our components show fixed content. To make them dynamic and reusable, we use props. Props allow us to pass data from one component to another, just like function arguments. Here, the same component is reused with different values. Even though the component code is written once, it displays different output depending on the props passed to it. This is one of the most powerful ideas in React. React requires components to return a single parent element. Fragments solve this problem by letting us return multiple elements without adding extra divs to the DOM. This keeps the DOM clean and avoids unnecessary wrappers. The children prop allows components to wrap other content. Anything placed between a component's opening and closing tags becomes available as children. This is extremely useful for building flexible layout or wrapper components. So let us look at how we can create a component in React. So for this particular subtask, we need to create a function or a component called goodbye, and this particular function or component should return a h3 heading message saying goodbye. So let us look at the code. Now let us create a goodbye component similar to the welcome component, which returns a h3 heading message which says thanks for visiting, see you soon. Now inside this app component, we use the welcome tag like a normal HTML tag. When React sees this, it replaces the welcome tag with a JSX return from the welcome function. The same thing happens with the goodbye tag. React replaces it with the JSX return from the goodbye component. So instead of writing all the UI in one place, we break it into small reusable components and compose them together inside the app component. Finally, we will be exporting the app component. So let's just run this code once. So you can see we have printed out both the welcome message and the goodbye message from our welcome and goodbye components. Let's just submit this once. So we have passed both the test cases. Now let us understand how props work in this example. So far we've seen components that show fixed content. Props allow us to make components dynamic by passing data into them. Think of props exactly like function arguments. We pass data from parent component to a child component, and the child uses that data to display the content. So let us look at this particular example. Here, user profile is a regular React component defined as a function. It receives one parameter called props. Props is an object that contains all the data passed to this component. Inside the JSX, props.name displays the name value and props.age displays the age value. The curly braces tell React that we are inserting JavaScript expressions inside JSX. So instead of hard coding values, this component displays whatever data it receives. Now let's see how this component is used inside app. Here, we use the same user profile component twice. In the first usage, name is set to Alice, age is passed as 25. In the second usage, name is Bob and age is 30. Even though the component code is written only once, it displays different output based on the props passed. This is the real power of props, reusability with customization. Notice that age is passed using curly braces. That's because numbers, variables or expressions must be wrapped in curly braces. If we wrote age equal to 25 without curly braces, React would treat it as a string. But using curly braces ensures it's treated as a number. So let's just run this code once. So you can see using one prop we're able to display two different outputs. Let's just submit this code once. So we have passed both the test cases. Now coming to React Fragments, when working with React components, you'll often want to return multiple elements from a component. However, React enforces one rule: a component must return a single parent element. This is where fragments become useful. So traditionally, to return multiple elements, we wrap everything inside a div. While this works, it adds an extra div to the DOM. Over time, these extra wrappers can make the DOM structure messy, interfere with the CSS layouts, and cause unwanted nesting issues. So although the UI looks fine, the underlying structure becomes hard to manage. So React Fragments allows us to group multiple elements without adding extra HTML element to the DOM. They act like an invisible wrapper. Instead of using div, we simply used angle brackets. So let us look at this given example. The app component returns 3 elements, a heading and 2 paragraphs. All of these elements are wrapped inside a fragment instead of a div. Because of this, React is satisfied with a single parent, no extra element is added to the DOM, and rendered HTML remains clean and minimal. So let's just run this code once. Let's just submit this code once. So we have passed the test case. So far, we have passed data to components using named props like name, age or text. The children prop works a little differently. It allows the component to wrap other content. Anything written between a component's opening and closing tags is automatically passed to that component as children. So let us look at this example. Here, the wrapper component receives children as a prop. Instead of receiving a specific value like text, it receives whatever content is placed inside the component. Now let us look at how it's used inside app. So here, the text hello world is placed between these two wrapper tags. React automatically passes this content to the wrapper component as children and it gets rendered inside the h1 tag. Now the children prop makes components more flexible, easier to reuse and ideal for layout, wrapper or container components. Now let us look at the given task code. In the existing message component, it receives a text prop and displays it inside a paragraph. This works, but it limits the component only to one specific prop. Now instead of passing a text prop, we can rewrite the component to use children. Now the component no longer depends on a text prop. Now let us look at how we can use the updated app component. The text inside the message tag is passed automatically as children and rendered inside the paragraph. So let's just run this code once. So you can see when the code runs, the output will remain the same, but internally the component is now more flexible and reusable. Let's just submit this code once. So we have passed both the test cases. So that was our introduction to components in React. To truly understand how components work, make sure to head over to the CodeChef platform and try out the practice problems yourself. That's where the real learning happens. That was it for this lesson and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.